Hey, welcome to BNS About Movies. This is Sam. I love Eurospy movies, particularly as I get older. I like non-James Bond Eurospy movies, the rip-offs, the movies that kind of are inspired by. And while these movies are about Bulldog Drummond, they are James Bond style movies. But Bulldog Drummond predates Bond by about 4 decades. Yet in the late 1960s, specifically 1967 and 1969, his adventures suggested to producers that he'd be the perfect Bond analog. This is Deadlier Than the Male is the first movie, the 23rd movie with Bulldog in it.
The gentle sex, the weaker sex. So charming, so pretty, so frail. Gentlemen, beware. They're deadlier than the male.
Poor Mr. Wingard.
I want a word with you, my friend.
Deadlier than the male, based on the famous Sapper suspense thriller. Stars Richard Johnson as that double-fisted, sophisticated private eye, Bulldog Drummond. Meet the original serpent, all snaked up and ready to strike. Elka Summer as Ekman. Blonde, blue-eyed, killingly lovely. Silva Koshna as pretty Penelope with the taking ways. She'll take your life if she thinks it pays. Now here's an interesting male, Nigel Green as Carl Peterson. It's a thriller killer with offbeat laughs. With luscious dolls in every shade and every shape. She's Susanna Lee. Lending a willing hand, a young and handsome new male star. Steve Carlson, romancing a new heartthrob. Introducing Virginia North.
Now, Brenda, stop playing hard to get.
All kinds of games. Every kind of gambit. Gentlemen, your move. All the suspense you can take is here. And at your service, two friendly operators, barely disguising their intention.
But his name was featured nowhere in the title. Instead, it refers to Rudyard Kipling's poem, The Female of the Species, as well as an earlier Drummond adventure, The Female of the Species. And you may recognize the song Deadlier Than the Male, which was recorded by the Walker Brothers. It's essentially a Scott Walker solo song. And it was sampled by the band Space for their song, which is probably better known, Female of the Species. That song is used in the closing credits of the first Austin Powers movie. Doesn't that bring everything full circle? Deadlier Than the Male is directed by Ralph Thomas, who was behind the Doctor series of films. He also came back to make the sequel, Some Girls 2, which we'll get to. Betty Box, who was married to Carry On producer Peter Rogers, was this film's producer. She is not an adult star despite her name. It's written by Jimmy Sangster, who would direct Lust for a Vampire and wrote nearly every major Hammer film, as well as the screenplay for The Legacy, Scream Pretty Peggy, and Whoever Slew Annie Rowe, a lot of others. Auntie Rue, gosh. This starts out with a bang, literally, because Irma Ekman, who is Elke Summer, is disguised as an air hostess, literally an air hostess in the 60s, to quote Flight of the Conchords. She murders an oil baron with an exploding cigar, then parachutes to safety. She's picked up by Penelope, who is Silva Koshina from So Sweet, So Dead. She's also the wife to Steve Reeves' Hercules in the Hercules movies. Together, they go off, kill another man, and make a spearfishing accident. Their goal is to take over Phoenician oil. Any executive that gets in the way is going to pay. And the girls also try to kill Bulldog, who is Richard Johnson, who was the original choice to play Bond in Dr. No, when he gets pulled into this caper. Virginia North is in this. She's also in the next movie as Robot Number 9, and in the same year, she would become a Bond girl in On Her Majesty's Secret Service. You probably know her better as Volnavia in the first Dr. Phibes movie. Nigel Green, the same man who is the Electric Messiah in the ruling class, is the villain. He has a giant robotic chess set that is a marvel of practical filmmaking. And eventually, those pieces ended up in somebody's courtyard in England. They survived for a long time. As the villain, plays Bulldog in a deadly game with the wife of Grace, Susanna Lee, who is the love interest of Nilsson in Son of Dracula. In The Balance, one of the bodyguards attempts to murder a hero. Bulldog gets the best of both of them, emerges intact. The bodyguard is Milton Reed. He once wrestled professionally as the Mighty Chang. You might recognize him as a guard in Dr. No, a temple guard in Casino Royale, and a Sandor, who Roger Moore fights in Rooftop and The Spy Who Loved Me. Legend has it that he wanted to play Oddjob so badly that he challenged Harold Sakata to a shoot match, a real match for the role. The producers stepped in, gave Sakata the hat-tossing role. He also shows up in Terror and Dr. Phibes Rises Again. The ending explosion of this movie basically comes down to who is wearing a hair clip. Yes, hairstyle choices can determine who lives and dies. This movie was given an X rating for its brutality and promiscuity of its two female villains. Today, I would bet it could probably play on regular television. If you want to check out this great Eurospy movie, it is on Tubi. The sequel is Some Girls Do, which came out in 1969.
These girls love men and show it in an extraordinary way. Titillating, unusual, exotic, but always very, very dangerous.
Give me that gun, or I'll shoot the darling little traitor.
This man has most unusual hobby. He keeps girls. It's only unusual because he keeps them by the dozen. And this man? He's the one all the girls are chasing to show what some girls do. It's amazing what some girls do.
Whoa! Great Scott, I think that's the most amazing bit of trick shooting I've ever seen.
This is a film packed full of surprises, with just a little thrilling suspense thrown in.
Drive carefully, Mr. Mortimer!
Good evening, Mr. Drummond.
Surprise, surprise.
The tension soars sky high as Drummond, hot on the trail, is attacked by a lethal lovely, determined to bring him down to earth.
History repeats itself. Napoleon dreamt of the entire universe thronging to his door. Now I shall fulfill his dreams.
Dressed as the Duke of Wellington.
And of course, my dear fellow, never back a loser.
Some Girls Do, a fast-moving, high-powered film where everything goes with a bang. A glittering assembly of stars. Richard Johnson as the hard-hitting crime buster Hugh Drummond. Dahlia Lobby as the luscious but lethal Helga. Biba Longcar as Pandora. James Villiers as a high-class gangster with a liking for ladies. And introducing Sidney Rome as Flicky, with guest star Robert Morley as Miss Mary. And Virginia North as Robot Number 9. For action, spectacle, excitement, laughter, and girls, girls, girls. Don't miss Some Girls Do.
Richard Johnson, Terrence Young's original choice of 007, as he said, is in it. Of never playing Bond, he told Cinema Retro, eventually they offered to Sean Connery, who was completely wrong for the part. But in getting the wrong man, they got the right man because it turned the thing on its head and he made it funny, and that's what propelled it to success. Johnson would go on to play Dr. Menard in Zombie, as well as roles in The Comeback, Beyond the Door, and Screamers, and The Great Alligator, so he did pretty well for himself. The world's first supersonic commercial plane is having problems, what with killer women like Maria Aiken, Jit Sternsgaard, who replaced Ingrid Pitt in Lust for a Vampire, Joanna Lumley in an early role. She and Virginia North were both filming On Her Majesty's Secret Service, at the same time at the very same Pinewood Studios as this film. These girls are on murder and sabotaging everyone and anything. It's a good thing the Bulldog and his assistant Flicky, Sidney Rome from the Puma Man, are on the case. The culprit is Carl Peterson, played by James Villeneuve, who is in For Your Eyes Only. He's a criminal who stands to get 8 million pounds if his plane is not ready. Beyond having two henchwomen named Helga, who she is played by Dahlia Levy, who was in The Silencer, Nobody Runs Forever, The Spy with the Cold Nose, and Casino Royale, and Pandora, who is Bebe Lonkar, who was in Jess Franco's Lucky the Inscrutable. Peterson has also created an army of female robots, Austin Powers, who can use ultrasonic frequencies to maim and murder. Of course, Bulldog and Helga hook up, but she fails several times to kill him off. Hell, she sleeps with him again after capturing. Everything gets blown up real good. Flicky ends up being a Russian double agent, and Bulldog hooks up with the only fembot who is really human, number 7, who's played by Vanessa Howard, who is in the Dan Curtis version of The Portrait of Dorian Gray. Again, robot number 9 is Virginia North. Valnavia from Dr. Phibes. Another is Shakira Baksh, who would be the wife of Michael Caine. This is on the good side of Eurospy. Nothing is all that serious. Everything moves quickly. I'd pick this one and Deadlier Than Male if you're looking for a non-Bond movie, as well as OK Connery, which is a lot of fun. Some Eurospy movies get a little procedural and not fun. So this is one I definitely recommend. Again, you can find these. They're on Tubi. They're on YouTube. They're somewhat easy to find. They're definitely worth checking out. The poster art is really incredible for them too. If you'd like to know more about movies and find some other ones that I'll eventually cover on the podcast, you can go to my site, bnsaboutmovies.com. You can reach out to me at bnsaboutmovies@gmail.com. You can donate to Ko-fi, and I'll write about any movies you'd like for as long as you'd like, really. There's different payment options on there. Like and share the show, all that stuff. Give us 5 out of 5, whatever you need to do. You don't have to. I'm not telling you what to do. And just watch more movies. Have fun with them. And thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.